Hi, everybody. I'm Fulvio from Italy, and I would like to take the chance to chat a little bit with Aleš about the next participation to the symposium in Prague. So, hi, Aleš.
Hi, Fulvio.
I hi. I am just flattered by the workshop I participated. Your workshop about layering the onion model of Dr. Ida Rolf, and the effects of your workshop are still resonating in myself. A lot of good stuff. So I would really like you to tell us a little bit of how you put this work together.
Okay. Um, well, I've been doing this work for over 30 years now, and one of my instructors originally was Emmett Hutchins. And Emmett talked a lot about working in fascial layers. And Ida Rolf, if you read her book, she talks about layers. She uses the onion metaphor. But what bothered me from the beginning is that I never got really an answer what these layers are. I mean, when you talk about, let's say there are fascial layers, and several questions come up. And how do you feel that layer? What is within a layer that is not within another layer? How do these layers correspond with each other or don't correspond with each other? And so Emmett's way of working with this was much more intuitive, was working with his hands. He felt stuff, but he was not as good as verbalizing them. And so I was left with this quest, if you will, or with this unease when I was working, that I didn't really, I'm trying to feel these layers, but I didn't really know what they were. And then I came across Carla Stecco's Fascial Atlas of Human Anatomy. And she essentially, if you really put the different parts of the book, it's a bit like a puzzle, together, you can, I think, draw a map of fascial, maybe lamina is nearly a better word than layers. And so I did that and started working with that concept. Okay, and over the years, I saw that this was working very well, and so I put a workshop together, and a condensed version of that workshop I'll teach next year in Prague.
Well, I can't wait to take it again. And I've been hit by the clarity of your work. Um, under many different levels and aspects, like the anatomical presentation, which gave me much better understanding, but also the sensorial experience in exchanging work with my colleagues, practicing the material that you were presenting us, so much that what do you think? Would it be possible to collocate this material that you put together into a basic training?
Yes, yes, and I think we're slowly doing that bit by bit. We're still working on finding out at what point to introduce it. Probably not right at the very beginning, but maybe somewhere in the middle we'll do that. Because, I mean, I am actually absolutely convinced by now that if you think within those fascial lamina and get the idea that one of the important things is that the fascial lamina should, to a certain degree, be able to glide past each other in movement and not be glued one to another, then there's a perfect logical explanation for the sequence of a basic series and for these 10 sessions. that you do not have to go back to the basic series is this way because Ida said so. Yes, that is one part. Ida said so. She devised it. But I think using the model of these fascial lamina, you can absolutely logically explain the exact basic series, even for completely left brain oriented people that like a totally intellectual analysis of this.
Yes, well, I have to say that it was really beneficial to us, to me and my colleagues in the workshop. And what I also what also hit me was the clarity and the easiness in of this material that we can use also as a tool to better understand the fascial body in gravity, but also as an evaluating tool. Can you tell us a little bit of that?
Well, I think every SI practitioner struggles with evaluation initially. So did I, you know. Some people just don't see and have not learned how to see. And of course, over the years, you develop your own way of seeing, which is then your own personal way of looking at it. And that's fine. That's fine. I think one of Eiderolf's principal paradigms, however, can also be used as an evaluating tool. Now, one of those paradigms was always put it where it belongs and get it to move there. I would phrase it a little more casually. I would say put it closer where it belongs and get it to move there. So I kind of like the way of that there's a path towards that and not an absolute goal. Put it where it belongs sounds a little bit too rigid for me. But anyway, if you use that paradigm and you kind of extrapolate it a little bit and nearly turn it around, you can say, or you can try in a given session to put, let's say, the pelvis, because this is what in every session is one of the central aims, to horizontalize and mobilize the pelvis. You can put the pelvis, let's say, in three-dimensional space in a hypothetically perfect position. Okay? Just hold it there on the client for a moment, you know, just go there and put it there and then feel what is it in the foot, let's say in session 2. Or what is it in the sideline in the session 3? Or what is it on the inside of the legs in session 4 that would pull it away from this hypothetically ideal position? And the strongest element in that pull will give you basically an idea of where to start the session. And then, of course, it's things that one follows the other, you know, and but that's the basic idea. Put it where it belongs and get it to move there. Or put it where it belongs and feel, why on earth doesn't it stay there? What is pulling it away?
That's a good point. And I have to say that it's really fun. It's really fun because it gives you the sense of the flow of gravity into the body and how it can flow, or which are the obstacles to this flow. So it's really, I found it really, really great and easy to get. So thank you, Aleš. I have a very last question for you.
Sure.
Of course, I don't want to reveal too much.
No,
I
we
hope
need a
that people...
cliffhanger.
Cliffhanger, yes. Can you tell us something a little bit more, at least, about the gracilis?
The gracilis.
That really intrigued me.
Well, I mean, the gracilis is one of the muscles that insert on the pes anserinus. Okay. And it is usually described in anatomy books as an adductor. All the other adductors, however, do not cross the knee. They stay there between the pelvis and the thigh, the femur. Okay? And in Carlos Stecco's fascial anatomy atlas, she points out that the gracilis is not an adductor in the classic sense, but it has a fascial sheath of its own. It's not in the adductor compartment. Okay? And I was kind of struck by that and said, yes, of course, that makes total sense. And then I asked her, tell me, is this really true? I mean, from your point of view, is the gracilis really has a fascial sheath of its own? It's not really an adductor, you know? And she said, so I said, okay, we don't know yet quite. And so I wrote her an email maybe 6 months later and said, Carla, the gracilis, have you found out something new about it? And she again said, but I don't think it has a fascial sheath of its own. So I said, well, okay, if it doesn't have that, which compartment does it belong to? And she said, the adductors, which is kind of a very unusual situation in the body, that you have a compartment of the adductors, which goes from the pelvis to the femur, and then suddenly you have one single element jumping out of that compartment and crossing over the knee to insert on the pes anserinus. I mean, it's a very unusual situation. I would have actually preferred her to say, hey, it has a fascial sheath of its own on top of the adductors. That would have been kind of much nicer for my for my feeling and from working with it. But that's the state of affairs in her point of view at the moment.
Great, and we're looking for more.
Yes, we're looking for, it's the whole thing is a journey. Science is a journey. Science is progress. They always find out new things. Hey,
exactly.
30 years ago, fascial work was something like voodoo. Nowadays, it's top scientific research. Hey, maybe the gracilis is going to be in a top layer at some point. Maybe it's going to go into another compartment at some point. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's an interesting journey and an interesting path, and it's the most exciting thing that I've been on my entire life. And I'm really looking forward to sharing part of this research at the symposium next year.
Great. I can't wait. I can't wait to take it again and more. So,
okay.
Aleš, thank you. And I hope to see many, many friends and colleagues in Prague to share this with you.
Excellent. Thank you, Fulvio.
Thank you, Aleš. Bye, everyone.